What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So Gotham Knights very soon is going to start getting all of the Gotham Knights as an underrated game videos and articles. But before then, I wanted to go ahead and drop receipts to show that by the time all of this starts to come out, people may forget that a lot of the people who reviewed or at least gave a lot of their impressions about Gotham Knights more than likely did not engage in the most important aspects of the game. Now, I say this because I've started to go back and look at a lot of the reviews, and I'm reading a lot of what was written about combat. And from what I'm seeing, a lot of these reviewers did not touch the deeper parts of the combat system, which is actually what makes the game more of an action superhero game. Now, the case in point is not only were they basically showing that they were only knowledgeable on a surface level about the combat, which there were tutorials and different ways for them to have learned, they kept saying Arkham in their reviews. And I was quite shocked. I was quite surprised. I was like, what is this Arkham obsession in a game where a gaming journalist should at least have known that the developers had said it's not an Arkham game, had designed its aesthetics, taken on characters that were not necessarily highlighted in the Arkham games and put them front and center. But it seemed like everybody was playing some sort of an, playing coy in a sense. It was kind of weird. But I got two articles just to show you guys from two different publications, two different reviewers, so that you would see what I mean. We're going to look at combat and how each reviewer actually talks about combat, just so that you guys are able to, for your own selves, make a little bit of judgment about what this is, in regard to all of this. It's almost a conspiracy. So this is one of the articles. I'm not going to mention the name of the publication. You probably can see the URL. Doesn't bother me, but I don't care at this point. So this writer goes ahead to say, although there are a sparse number of puzzles to solve in addition to the meager amount of bosses to fail, okay, combat is the game's central system that everything is built upon. Good. You'll be driving, gliding, or sprinting around the streets off of rooftops of the city each night looking for heads to crack. Like the mission design and writing, combat initially makes a strong impression by being distinct from previous Batman games. The problem, however, is it fails to evolve as the game goes on. This is actually not accurate. Once you start to get into the game and start to pick up the regular basic aspects, then you start to tap into just naturally into the RPG elements. But let's keep reading. It swaps out the active counter-heavy model for something more RPG-like. Do you see this? The counter-heavy model. They're stuck in Arkham, where cooldowns and a momentum meter lord over your capabilities. And it can look cool for a while. You'll stylishly take down foes of a few different classes, like big brutes and shields or Molotov tossing near duels. But rather than Arkham's very defensive-minded combat, where you systematically had an answer to everything thrown your way, here it's more about keeping the pressure on and always hitting something. It's the difference between action and reaction. It emphasizes the momentum meter over the actual learned techniques that Batman must have taught the foursome, and seemingly all in the name of being an RPG that demands sturdy enemies who can be dispatched with the same ease that Batman has shown before. Are you kidding me? This is not just a matter of just being in Arkham. This is a matter of just saying someone who did not necessarily pay very close attention as to how they can actually leverage the mechanics that are available in Gotham Knights and make sure that the combat in question here is actually very well explored and used to their advantage. They went into this game button mashing or wishing that they could play Arkham combat the entire time and missed out on the fact that there are elements within the combat system that's not just always momentum based that they could actually leverage. Now, keep in mind, some of the enemy NPCs and some of the characters will probably have a higher requirement of you using a lot of your momentum meter while you're actually playing the game. That's for sure. Their style is really momentum heavy. But that is not exactly the entirety of the combat. There are areas and aspects of the combat and each character that you can leverage in pretty much making for the game to have a strong dynamic play that's not necessarily always something that you must, lean on in terms of the momentum. And if you wanted to lean on momentum, you can even spec and gear up to build momentum so much that you can actually be the one driving how much momentum you use and not let yourself be limited by the game limiting you by momentum meters. It is insane. Let's look at the second article. Y'all are gonna be like, yo, where did you get all this? Where did you have the time? I have the time because I know they're gonna come back and say, oh, Gotham Knights, and then they're gonna be doing these dirges all over the place. So this writer says, Gotham Knights did have me fooled. This is another article, by the way, for a few hours though. At first, it reminded me how delicious the Arkham-style third-person stealth and combat can be. Already here we are. Every punch and kick has weight and rhythm. It's practically staccato. It's the rare action game outside of Musu's, it's Musu or Mushu, beat-em-ups, like Dynasty Warrior, where a group of enemies isn't a chore. It's an opportunity to flex your gadgets and patience to sneak through a puzzle of patrols. As you learn the visual tells and the button presses to associate with them, fights elevate from messy scraps to Hong Kong ballets. And then they switch like that. Then I went back and tried both Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum and realized the trick Gotham Knights played on me. Gotham Knights benefits from years-long gap between it and the Arkham series because if you haven't spent time in those games recently, you might have forgotten how tremendous Arkham Asylum's combat was and how consistent it stayed all the way to Arkham Knight. It was already pristine. Gotham Knights awkwardly tries to break it apart. What? It's frustratingly inferior to those years-old games despite its attempt to mirror the Arkham combat. Like so many games that transition into open world, what are they talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, do you see for yourselves how you need to probably throw away these reviews so that you can actually understand what this game is about? Because if you go with a lot of what these reviewers said, and I'm sure a lot of people did, and I know many of us in our community will say, well, reviewers are just people giving their opinions, but they really do influence a lot of what people think about video games. I even have people telling me that because a video game is not being played by someone, hence the video game is not worth being played. There are people that are just like that. There are people who actually have to wait for somebody else to kind of play a game that they are looking forward to. I mean, it's not insulting them, but for the most part, this is kind of how a lot of people approach video games. You let somebody else kind of take a look at it and deal with it, and then you probably go in there and maybe, check the game out yourself if you like it. But this game, to me, I just felt like, man, something was missing. Let's just, in all fairness, read everything that was written about combat so I don't miss something. It's so all the inferiority and all that stuff. It says, like so many games that transition into open world RPGs with skill trees and levels and missions and crafting, it takes the resourcefulness and strength of being Batman and scatters them across a big map for you to accrue over hours and hours of play, and it splits them up between individual heroes. Robin's skill tree has the Batman, where you can string up an enemy from a vantage point, but the ability to place elemental-based mines is in another tree, and Batgirl can't do that move at all. Instead of building an all-powerful arsenal of tools and attacks, each character was only a fraction of the Batman I know. Well, yeah. I mean, isn't that what the Bat family should probably represent? That each one of them is going to have their own distinctive style that is somewhat, originating from Batman himself? Because these kids have not really seen much. Batman, on the other hand, has had to deal with threats dealing with the Justice League and all kinds of stuff. So he is the embodiment of what a superhero human character in the face of all kinds of crazy threats should be. And these are his proteges. They're still really young. I just want to go crazy Nigerian vernacular and just go, what in these people they write? What are you doing? Okay, let me just go. And Batgirl can't do that move at all. Instead of building up an all-powerful, so it says, as a reaction to what made the games great, it's a failure. No, as a reaction to this review, your review is the failure. Oh my gosh. This is absolutely sad. Dear developers, never release a video game that has the nature of a similarity with the universe that you're trying to change things up without passing that game through your fans' hands. I understand the old ways of doing things, but they are dead. This game, because of the choices that were decided to be made by the marketing, has now cost not only the developers a lot of money, but also a lot of potential fans that could have at least enjoyed this game to miss out on a fun combat simulator, basically a superhero beat 'em up. That would have probably been something they just added to their library. But now many of them are walking away bitter because not only did reviews like these tell them otherwise, other reviews and other opinions also told them things. And I can tell you a lot of these reviewers who are out here, man, they did not engage this game fully. I think you should have the opportunity to recluse yourself from a review, in a sense, if you're not interested. Or maybe they're just really jaded by the Arkham games. And you know what's crazy? It's not even like these folk can even really play the Arkham games, man. They should show their Arkham library and their achievements if they really are into this Arkham life. Like, you know, people talk about Arkham like, oh, you know, Arkham and all that stuff. But when you actually look at their libraries and you look at their Arkham achievements across the board, they really have not played the game as much as it is that they claim, you know, to enjoy those games more. Why? You can look at the PlayStation trophies of, you know, Batman Arkham. You can look at who all or what percentage of players have gotten these trophies. And it's easy for you to be able to interpolate and see that very few players actually go in for the much more difficult aspects of the, you know, of the game itself and actually control how much time they play and what activities that they do. So I'm really just shocked as to what I'm discovering from reading a lot of these opinions. And I'm going to continue on this particular path. I am ready to just go ahead and look and see what in the world went on. But we're going to stop here today because this is a little infuriating at the end of the day. Because it's one thing, you know, for you to say, you know, a game did this and it's not this and it's inferior. This combat system is like Assassin's Creed, you know, Valhalla or Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I could go to this same outlets and I can look up the reviews that they gave for those games. And I can almost guarantee you, depending on the reviewer is probably not going to say anything like that in the context of those games. Man, if I ever was to find myself in a position where I'm making a video game, we're going to start out with a demo. I mean, to the developers that come on this channel that say demos are dead, no offense, man, but your game is liable to be dead if it doesn't have a way for the fans to be able to get their hands on it, at least. Forspoken is doing a good job giving their audiences a demo. But like I said, I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.